on the walls of my room. I think it's a John Sargent Singer portrait of a naked woman with a significant bum on her, and it's a source of contention that this is next to the marital bed, but I think art wins out. You know, it's half empty at the moment. Well, there's some of the factors that make things unpleasant, so unable to satisfy desire, unable to exert control over the environment, having one's dreams broken apart little bit by little bit, but getting to revisit them all the same. These would have to come together to define misery, and I haven't been there yet. And I think there are 3 different types of God, and 2 of them don't exist and 1 of them does. And one of the types of God that doesn't exist is God as an explanation for why shitty things happen. The second type of God that doesn't exist is the invisible causal entity that causes the world to be and makes things happen in the world. And there's probably not a sense of God that by some ritual of praying that you can affect change in your environment, that somehow you can control your world. All of those science has replaced those type of gods. The type of God that does exist is as a cipher or an abstraction of the notion of goodness and value. You can't find that type of value in a structural, physical, scientific characterization of the world. Science pretends that it has moral values, but these are just arbitrary assumptions that say survival of the fittest is a good thing, and that therefore that to survive, to perpetuate one's species is somehow morally good. This is just an arbitrary assumption. So the assumption that there has to be value, that there has to be goodness in life, I think is the same thing of what it means to believe that there is a God. There was a famous social psychologist who was retiring by the stage I was at Oxford, but I went to lectures that he gave where he argued most vehemently that the key to happiness was Scottish dancing, and that if only people could meet together and do some Scottish dancing and then just occasionally take a nice walk in the park, then that was sufficient to make them happy. Yeah, so I think what I want to be when I grow up is the more successful I am in the intellectual aspects of my career, the more I want to be appreciated for my looks. I would feel the performance pressure because I would quite like to be sitting, in the mind of the likes of Napoleon or Churchill or Kennedy in the Cuban Missile Crisis, just in the moments of high tension about what's going through their head. But if you actually say I have to take over in those situations, that's quite a lot of performance pressure. I'm not sure I'd make the right decisions. Performance pressure, so if I'm actually in control of things, then I have to be passive and at the centre of desire. So I think, you have to go into 50s Hollywood movies. I think I would be, Queen Cleopatra the day Caesar turns up or something. Yeah, you only have free will if you want it. Free will is just an excuse. It's just an excuse to be unhappy because you're mistaking it for whether you control your what you do next to what you don't. So it's fundamentally levels of description confusion about internal versus external cause. I'd quite like to experience skydiving with the dangerous bit taken out. The landing bit. I often thought that if I got Alzheimer's, the problem with Alzheimer's is eventually your personality is just going to fall apart. And it'll be kind of nice to end things before that got that bad. So I thought, that's the time to take up parachuting. So finally, when you get to the state that you forget to pull the ripcord, that's the right time to wave goodbye. I don't really have one. The more vivid memories are late teenage memories where the hormones are taken over, and I was experiencing unrequited loves. Unrequited loves kind of saturated my mentality for a couple of years and wiped out most of the underlying childhood memories. My superpower, I've done some research in this area. I think the power to control strings in string theory, because strings seem to be really important. Electromagnetism, that's a good control to have. It seems to be very powerful. This is kind of a DC Comics influence. I already have dreams where I can fly, so I think a little version of that. I'd like to be able to fly very, very fast indeed, just to test out some of those Einsteinian notions of time slowing down as you go really fast. So that would be fun. To a slightly older, slightly more experienced lady, after some consideration of a bottle of vodka. I remember I have a photograph of what I looked like as a little kid, and I was watching a movie, Chronicles of Narnia, and in that there's a young female protagonist who must be 10 years of age, who looks very similar to what I looked like as a kid. So that's a female version of me as a kid. And again, I just,
didn't like what you saw.
I can't see myself fencing that from the other side of the fence. I think it would have been a tough life. My favourite shardcore work. See, I did like the early musical influences. Obviously, I always argued that there should be some underlying melody there rather than the scream of penetrated pain. But latterly things have changed a bit. I would be the biggest fan of the more recent science-influenced paintings, and I think the X chromosome, which hangs on the wall of my office, would be my own personal favourite.